Yo, it's Big Joker, straight out of Samba Plains. 3 MVPs, but they tryna tame my reign. Should've been 4, but they handed Joe the crown. I stay quiet, hit the court and shut it down. I'm the selfless king, call me the dime machine. Stacking triple doubles, but you're a simple likes fiend. Dishing cheeseburgers, bringing happiness to 2. Every day I'm Samba shuffling and I'm coming for you. They talking about stats, I'm talking about the team. Big Honey stays on parade, I'm the best you've ever seen. Love my horses, keep me grounded, stay chill while they grind for clout. I'm just perfecting my skill. I'm the MVP without the chase of the clout. You know my style's quiet, but I'll leave no doubt. Best in the league, without obsession in my veins. I hoop for the love, not to be a Hall of Fame name. I'm the Joker, playing my hand so smooth. MVP vibes, I got nothing to prove. Passing like magic, the court is my stage. Quiet storm making noise, turning the page. I'm the best in the league, let the doubters see. Dropping dimes, breaking records, call me MVP.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 121 of the longest tenured Denver Nuggets spin-off podcast in the world. Welcome to the DNVR Nuggets' Serbian Corner. My name is Miroslav, and before we begin, please let me remind you to like the video on YouTube, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the DNVR Sports YouTube channel and DNVR Nuggets podcast channel. The audio version is perfect for your commute or to make your office/home office time more bearable. If you want to support the show more directly, you can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/MiroslavCuk, just like my Seco tier supporters Peter Plummer and Daniel Lynch. You just heard a fantastic Joker song by DJ Immaculate and saw his video created using the art of the one and only Alec Gwynn. Go check out the Lurk Design website. I wear his t-shirts every other day, and I guess this is the other day because I'm wearing one today. Okay, let's just run quickly through the games from last week. Not that there were a lot of them. Thank you, NBA. So the Wizards game, Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon were on the injury list for that game. And I'm not going to waste words on that one. Instead, I'll read a tweet by Kevin O'Connor, unredacted. Nikola Jokić tonight, 56 points, career high. 22 of 38 field goal attempts, 3 of 5 three-point attempts. Everyone else on Denver, 57 points, so 1 point more. 24 of 56 from the field, 43%. 2 of 19 three-point attempts, 10.5%. The Nuggets lost by 9 points to the Wizards, which was embarrassing. The Hawks game, two things happened after the Wizards' embarrassment. First, after the game, Nikola Jokić told Katie Wingy and Bennett Durando, and I will paraphrase it because I know he was translating from Serbian in his head. If a team in Serbia has such a bad stretch, all the players can get fined with a pay cut, regardless of importance to the team. Also, players can get removed from the starting lineup or even suspended. Then, the following day, there was a team meeting, and I really liked this part because it is one thing for your superstar to address players via media and a completely different thing when he faces his teammates and tells them what he expects from them. The result, in a 20-hour span, the team that has lost by 9 points to the worst team in the league beats by 30 points the hottest team in the league on a 6-game winning streak. Nikola scored 104 points and had 30 rebounds and 16 assists within one business day. Michael Porter added 26 and 7 despite the bad three-point shooting, so he was finding other ways to be effective, and Aaron Gordon returned to the lineup despite not being completely ready. Russell Westbrook took advantage of the biggest target with the best hands in the league and recorded 11 assists. It's going to sound like a joke note, but Jalen Pickett played for 17 minutes, and he was plus 18. Now, before we get to the last night's game against the Clippers, let me introduce my guests for today. All three of them are my good friends and frequent guests on this show, but before that, they were my heroes from their Denver Stiffs days. They are writers and podcasters, Gordon Gross, Nick Hertzog, and Mike Olson. How are we feeling today, gentlemen?
Good to see everybody.
Pretty good,
You
man.
look good. Go Stiffs.
Okay, let me
Hey.
introduce all of you in alphabetical order by first name. So I guess that means Gordon goes first. Gordo,
Last name would have gone first too. No, it's
so tell me, are you polishing your nugget steaks now with me so you can record the proper podcast with Zach tomorrow, I guess?
that depends if Zach shows up. He's a family man, so it's really down to whether or not Zach can get away from the kiddos long enough to podcast. But yeah, sure, let's sharpen up and make it sound like I know what I'm talking about next time.
Yeah, so everybody, just don't forget to check out the Denver Stiffs show with Zach and Gordon. It's a wonderful show. I never miss. Next, Mike Olson. Mike, are you in Colorado now or California or?
Just outside of Colorado, in Cheyenne, Wyoming, for a little bit, anyway.
Oh,
but,
nice.
Yeah, but close enough. In Colorado, probably more often than I'm in Wyoming these days. So,
say hello to Andy Bailey when you see him because he's awesome.
such a big fan of Andy. It's kind of wild to be in the same town.
Excellent, Nick. How are you feeling today?
Doing good, man. Optimistic. I think I think we have a little momentum building here, maybe.
We can all thank the Nuggets greatly for the game last night because I don't know what the tone of this
Half
show
of the
would
game
be
last night.
Yeah. So let's just figure out what happened last night. If you told me that Nikola Jokic and Jamal would combine for 5 assists in a game, and Nikola is going to finish the game with 16 points and 7 rebounds and not play in the fourth quarter, I would bet good money the Nuggets lost that game by 20 points.
Especially to a team that they'd lost to twice already. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the box score where Jamal is the leading scorer with 20 points, and I still don't understand how they combined for 120 points. Where did they find all of those points? Now, it was the first Monday of the season, and I think another case of one team being really playing really hard, and the other team treating the game like it's a Friday game in December. So, Gordon, were the Nuggets awesome or were the Clippers horrible?
Well, the Nuggets also gave up like an 18-1 stretch over 10 minutes in the second quarter. So the Nuggets were not awesome. What happened is the Nuggets just decided to keep playing. And the problem this year is that the Nuggets have had trouble keeping playing the whole game, even when they're screwing up. So they didn't let go of the rope. They kept trying to figure it out. And in the third quarter, they figured it out after some early turnovers in the third quarter. And the bench kicked in 40 points last night. Like, that's a big deal. And I know that a lot of that was because the starters didn't play much of the fourth. And Jokic played none of it. But that was a big deal for the bench to say, we can still score. And they actually won the fourth quarter still. The bench outscored the Clippers in the fourth. That's a big deal. And they basically, even though the Nuggets turned the ball over like 22 times, the Clippers turned it over 21. They turned James Harden over 9 times, I think. So they kept the Clippers from doing what the Clippers wanted to do offensively instead of just giving whatever they wanted, which was pretty much how it had gone the first couple of matchups. Jamal played really good defense. Jamal was good on both ends, honestly. Just not with the turnovers. But nobody on the Nuggets was good with turnovers last night. But they played hard. And I hate to say that playing hard is the solution to NBA success. But it certainly is when the other team is playing hard and you're not. Mm-hmm. That's certainly a recipe for failure. So the Nuggets showing up and deciding that they wanted to actually compete. And then when stuff went badly in the second, they kept trying. They wound up going into halftime with the lead because they didn't quit in the final 2 minutes. They kept trying. And that's really what I want to see from them. Like, that's enough with Nikola being great. Just try. And so it's been good to see the last couple of games that was their recipe for success.
Yeah, and the Nuggets started that fourth quarter with Jamal and Westbrook on the court. Yep. And I don't even remember who the other 3 guys were. It was DJ and Peyton and I guess Julian Strother, maybe. Not sure about that. But Mike, Coach Malone doesn't leave Nikola on the bench with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter unless he's sure there is no way the other team is going to climb back into it. And you can't put your star back super late in the fourth because he's been resting for like 20 minutes, and that's not safe for his body. So why do you think Coach Malone was so brave last night? What was the thing that showed him that they are ready to close the game without Nikola? I mean, a part of 20-point lead, I guess.
I think the team keeping it, right? I think, Malone, it feels like to me a lot of times this season that he's been sitting on what is understandably a bit of a hair trigger, as the lead starts to go away, like it did in the second quarter that Gordon was talking about. They had to go back to the starters, and even the starters didn't immediately staunch that bleeding. But when they got the lead back in the third quarter, and they cleaned up a lot of the turnover troubles that they'd had in the first half, even the turnovers they had in the second half of the game weren't nearly as impactful. I think Coach called that out after the game as well. They didn't have to go back to Nikola, and it's such a nice something to be afforded to, not have to watch that lead winnow away. It was great to see the bench win that fourth quarter. That was amazing.
Nick, what did you think about the bench's performance last night? What was the difference comparing to the other games when we saw the wheels coming off the second Nikola Jokic would leave the court?
I mean, they made some shots, so that always helps. Yeah. I think there seemed to me to be, though, a bit of a mentality shift. In particular in this game, I think maybe a little bit in the Hawks game too. But I'm wondering if after this team meeting or something, I don't know, guys have just maybe the Wizards game was enough of a wake up call for people to understand that this is a team sport, and you have to play well as a team to win it, even if you have a generational great player like Jokic on your team. Because I feel like just the team, just compared, you guys were talking about effort a lot here early on, and I think that's right. But I think it's kind of like a focus or something. It's hard to describe. I don't know that it was that they weren't playing with energy before, but it seems like now, guys like Murray and MPJ, something is, I don't know, something has maybe clicked a little bit for them that no, I have to be a great version of myself for us to be great. I can't be mediocre Murray and just go through the motions and we're going to win 55 games now. I don't know. I mean, I'm armchair psychologizing, but it just seems like there was a mentality, Murray had a game face on last night that I feel like I haven't seen all season. I don't know. This is a total feel vibe thing. I can't I'm not going to be able to give you I don't know.
I think
a set of proofs for this, but
I think it's right, Nick, and I think it ties into the effortful thing that Gordon is talking about. And I think you can turn the effort off and on sometimes on the offensive side of the ball, but where the Nuggets have not been successful doing that so far this season, their defense has not stood up. And some of that is something like having a Julian Strawther figuring out, just which way his feet are on some nights. It's really been
out last night, so helpful.
Exactly. Yeah, and they're going to play into better versions of that. But I feel like it's going to make Malone crazy. But the defense, I feel like they're going to make Malone crazy if the defense doesn't start to shape up. That's the part of this that as the effort comes and goes, man, when the defense washes away, you get a game like the Wizards. It's just it was brutal.
Well, and some of that's based on trust too. If you're going to rotate hard, you have to believe that someone's going to cover you. Yeah. Otherwise, you hedge. You come halfway, and then you're kind of in no man's land because you don't believe that someone's coming behind you to pick you up.
Which is where you see Christian Braun not being suddenly a great-looking defender in exactly those cases. Right?
Yeah, because you're second-guessing. And guys aren't making those rotations, and they're not sure where they're going to be, and they're not moving at full speed. Which is how the Nuggets kept getting beat on back cut after back cut after back cut because they just weren't maintaining where they need to be on the court. Yep. And I don't know if they were able to clean that up with the 4 days off for the practicing. They were able to actually get in the film room, get on the court, handle their rotations better. They looked a lot better on defense. They looked like, and again, part of that was sticking to your man. Jamal Murray staying in front of James Harden all the time without fouling him was incredibly important to this team. And he hasn't been healthy enough to do that most of this year. So it was nice to see him come out and have burst again, be able to finish shots, have his legs under him with the jump shot, but also mostly just to keep up on defense. That was really important. And not losing your first line of defense really helps when you're worried about second and third lines of defense. So
this is a good matchup for them for that reason. I think because Murray can stay in front of Harden, where he can't stay in front of like SGA or some of these other guys, right? This is also why I think Dallas is a good matchup for the Nuggets. I'm not concerned about a potential like showdown with them, but yeah, if they're gonna get to the point to compete with OKC, it's gonna be on the defensive end.
Okay,
that they have to get there.
On that note, we're going to take a short break. And why? Because I need to talk to you guys about Empire Today. If you need new floors, look no further. They are the emperors of the floors. So many people already enjoy Empire Today floors. Just ask them about their great experience. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats, and they will say that they sell they have the lowest prices available. Don't look at those, because those guys are not selling the floors they would put in their own homes. This is why you need to go to Empire Today. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is as important as what they put in. Their virtual floor designer is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. Flooring is all Empire Today does. They live and breathe flooring, so you can be confident you're getting honest, upfront advice. They service their own warranties. If an issue does arise, just call Empire. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use a promo code DNVR. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DNVR for details. That's empiretoday.com/DNVR. Okay, guys, we are back. And my theory on this game, and we're going to get to the part where I don't understand how it took its shape at all. But my theory is that the Nuggets played really well after Nikola Jokić addressed his teammates in a locker room or wherever that happened. And that happened after he actually mentioned the same stuff to the media. Pretty surprisingly, I have to say. So I think the players were playing with fire under their feet and really showed up for this game. But Nick, wasn't it strange to you that Joker was looking kind of clumsy in this game, or did I just overstate stuff here?
I don't know. I don't think it was quite the type of game that we used to see from him, where he just sort of would check out every once in a while and just be like, I'm not going to shoot tonight. But I think it was kind of planned. I don't know. I got the sense that Jokic was looking to let other guys, or maybe it wasn't even so much him. Maybe it was just other guys were he could sense something in the other guys that they were ready to shoot this game. They were ready to like take the game by the reins a little bit in a way that maybe, like, especially guys like Murray and MPJ I'm talking about. I thought Strawther was really aggressive and active too. And Watson. So yeah, it could have just been like a feel thing. It may have not been like a planned out strategy on his part. Hard to say, but I do think there was there was something intentional happening where he was intentionally taking a bit of a backseat because he could.
Well,
I think we needed to see that. So.
I would also say that the Clippers were sitting like 5 guys in the paint. The Clippers ran terrified at Jokic every single time Nikola touched the ball, thought about touching the ball anywhere near the elbow. He was getting swarmed. And so it was the sort of game that if Jokic was going to play the way that he normally does, which is let the game tell him what's going to happen, then it should have been a game for everyone else. Because if they're playing him like that, then with that much attention, then everyone else was going to need to do their job, and he let them. But he wasn't really directing traffic. He was setting screens. He was telling people where to go. He was encouraging them to cut and whatever, but the ball wasn't in his hands nearly as much as we're used to seeing. So I thought that was really interesting. Like, I expected if he's going to be dishing, then he would be dishing, but that's not what happened. He was off ball for a lot of the game, and the Nuggets still won it. Like, they won it handily. It worked out, but it was definitely not a standard game plan by any means.
It blows my mind that with scoring in the teens this last game, he is still averaging 40 points a game over his last 3. And I think maybe just a deep breath that he saw an opportunity to take.
Right.
Hell yes. Yeah. Why not?
He worked way less hard tonight than he's had to all season when he worked last night. He played 3 quarters, was not on ball, didn't take a major beating trying to get to the paint through 3 guys, wasn't getting hacked every time down. That was a nice little game for him, honestly. I'm really glad that worked out and had a win.
Yeah, and I think that was enabled by the other guys. I think it obviously if the game had gone differently, Jokic would have gone into beast mode and tried to will them to a win, but fortunately he didn't have to. So,
I think that's right.
Which has been nice. It's a nice change from what we've been seeing.
Is it just the fact that the Nuggets have all of their guys? I mean, apart from Vlatko and Holmes, but other than that, the Nuggets have all of their guys for the last game, and is that the sign that they actually have enough quality on the roster already to compete with the best teams in the league, or is it just? What I want to ask is, do you feel confident that the Nuggets are going to show this kind of energy and concentration more often than not for the rest of the season?
They feel like chitty chitty bang bang to me. It's a very sputtering engine right now, and I think if Murray comes back to most of himself, has his usual arc of a season, and I think if a piece or two off of the bench can figure their shit out, yeah, I think it's very possible. But that's sure a lot of ifs, just for one,
I'm not concerned about the Nuggets, though. It's once again, this is Yokmas Eve. So, tomorrow is when the Nuggets usually start the season.
Yeah.
Normally they sputter for the first however many games. There are a couple of seasons they've come out of the gate hot, but a lot of times they spend time figuring out how to do this. I think partially that's because all of the reps you get over the summer have nothing to do with Nikola Jokic ball. It has to do with regular basketball, and when you get back to playing Nuggets ball, it's weird again, and you have to get back in the flow. I still believe that's a thing. It doesn't work the way you would ever play with any other player. And so the Nuggets take a couple months to get used to that, and then once they get it ready, then they take off. And they figured out the effort part so far. Mike is playing well. Christian is doing fine as far as replacing KCP. Not in everything that KCP did, but overall, considering the whole of their game, it's just more transition, less threes. They're figuring out how they need to play with this starting unit. And like you said, Mike, as long as you have enough bench support, you'll be okay. Russ is doing what Russ needs to do. You really need Julian to be a consistent shooter, and he's been better at that this year. And you need him to foul less and defend. He's game. He's game. He contests at the rim, but he needs to just be better. Right, and he'll get better. I mean, that's what the reps are for. And Malone likes him because Malone keeps putting him out there even though he keeps making mistakes. And Malone doesn't do that for everybody.
Yeah.
So Malone likes him. So it's just a matter of, I would still like them to pick up an extra piece, a vet that could play. The injuries have been a disaster. But I still am very optimistic that this is a turnaround for the squad, and it comes right about when it usually comes in the season for them.
Yeah, I think, at least I know, I'll speak for myself. I think I just underplayed the importance of losing Gordon for as long as they did. I mean, especially to develop defensive cohesion. He is, the linchpin on defense. He is, their entire defensive scheme really revolves around what Aaron Gordon can do defensively. And he was out for 10 games or something, right?
Full month. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and where are we at now? The Nuggets are, let's see, they're 13-10. They're in 6th seed at the moment. They're 3 games out of 2nd place. So it's not like this has been a disaster or something, right? Remember that Lakers team a couple of years ago was like sub 500 going and had traded away half their team or whatever and still got to the Western Conference Finals, right? So we're a long ways away from having any kind of existential concern about the team, I think. But I think we've said this already on here, and I think every episode I've been on this year, I think some version of Murray's got to be better, and if he's better, they'll be fine has been said. I think it's we're kind of a broken record, but it's just kind of as Murray goes, that's how their championship chances are going to go.
Yeah, but Mike, Murray has been better, at least in this last game.
In this last game, and I think he has been, and I think Nick's point about AG is very well founded. The injuries, when you overlay that over the top of some of what the babies have been trying to figure out, have been a big deal. Jamal, I can't imagine with Jamal's personality and how hard he takes some of what the media has to say. Hi, Brendan/Brandon. I can't imagine that this has been an easy something for him to navigate early in this season. I hope he's had his earmuffs on for a lot of it, but I hope that what we saw last night was the beginning of something, not just peaks and valleys, kind of like we got to see in the playoffs last year. We need to see some consistency there that, frankly, we rarely have seen over the long arc. So. That's his big. I think that's his big hill to climb still.
Well, the problem with Jamal is always, can he be healthy enough to do the things that he needs to? He's always been relatively inconsistent in the regular season, but when he gets to the playoffs healthy, he plays every possession like he's going to die if he doesn't play it as hard as he possibly can. And for me, I think that's incredibly valuable. Jokic can carry you during the regular season, and then Jamal puts the pedal to the floor the whole playoffs. And that's what happened in the bubble. That's what happened when they won the championship. But he can't do that if he's broken. And so my only concern with Jamal is whether the team has a plan to get him to the postseason healthy. And Russ being good enough to play with Jokic, and them making each other better, is actually a really positive development. Because if you would rather burn one of the two of them before the playoffs, you would rather burn Westbrook. And I hate to say it that way, but
can Westbrook get burned?
I don't think so.
That guy's got an unbelievable motor. Yeah.
If you want to put the burden on somebody in the regular season, you put it on Westbrook, because you need Jamal to get his body ready. He said he's still dealing with plantar fasciitis, which is, again, an overuse injury, just like shin splints. Again, it's a matter of ramping up too fast, playing 40-plus minutes because Malone hates the bench. You can't play Jamal that way. You can't. And so I'm hoping that the Nuggets have a plan the rest of the year to get him rest days. Obviously, we talked about how he looked great last night. Sure. He also hadn't played in a week and a half. So, yeah, he looked really good. He should be really rested. He's not going to get a week and a half off before every game. They need him to be able to come out and perform, but you can't break him with minutes. So as long as they have a plan for Jamal, I feel really good about him being ready for the playoffs the way they need him to be. You saw how he looked playing defense and offense when his body was reacting correctly. So you just need him to get to that point. That involves the training staff, that involves Jamal himself, that involves Malone. Everybody's got to work together to make sure that he's in the right shape and the right fit to do that, because his mentality is still there and he obviously can still play.
You hit on a really important point here, and I want to take a break because I want to expand on that right after these important messages. Okay, we are back. So, Gordon, you mentioned Jamal's plantar fasciitis that has been bothering him for a while, and honestly, I just don't know why nobody has mentioned it before. We all could have been a bit less intense about him if somebody had mentioned he has a nagging injury. How do we feel about where he is at after 23 games? And also, another point, you mentioned the need for him to rest more. Is there a way to reduce his minutes per game and not rest him for the whole games? Like maybe reduce his minutes to 28, 29 and try to keep his body well that way. And I do have some ideas how to do it.
Yeah, that's Westbrook's job. Like, yep, play him more. Exactly. That's what they should be doing.
One way
Jokic
yeah,
I was gonna say Jokic and Westbrook are starting to figure each other out, and this is going to be pretty fun when they get fully locked in. Westbrook can pass too, guys. And I mean he's got holes in his game. Obviously, his shooting is terrible, but he hasn't been terrible so far this year. Actually, he hasn't been great, but he's terrible. But he can pass. He always could pass, and he's incredibly athletic. And we've already talked about this like unlimited motor he has. So I really like the potential there for him and Jokic to be slinging it around when they fully get locked in with each other. I think, and yeah, as a minute saver for Murray, it's perfect. A high energy, high motor guy.
Two of the top 3 triple-double guys ever playing pick and roll with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That sounds like more fun than any of us should be allowed to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other way that you keep Jamal out of those minutes is you never, ever, ever, ever make him the platoon guy with the bench ever again. And I think that also tunes down some of those overuse minutes that we have thrown on his shoulders for way too many years already.
MPJ is the platoon guy I like better, for sure.
Agreed. Yeah.
He just didn't work well in a platoon lineup so far. MPJ, I mean, like Jamal, we know we have a huge sample of Jamal not playing well with a bench platoon. But MPJ this season, I don't feel like he's been playing great with 3 or 4 bench guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just think that's what I think he needs to. I think that's something on MPJ. I think he needs to learn how to be a little more of a leader on that group, and because they really need his shooting with the bench.
Well, and if you're going to play Aaron Gordon on the bench as well as the big, in the games where you can't play DeAndre, then MPJ and Aaron Gordon work well together. Mm-hmm. So I like that as a way to reinforce MPJ with the bench. If he's playing it with AG and Russ and Julian, all of a sudden now you've got some real spacing on the floor, so that Russ can cut to the basket, and you guys can run the floor, and you've got 2 shooters on either side. Like, that gives you some flexibility that I think helps you out.
Is Jamal on his normal path into the season, and should we expect more from him going forward now that he is a second max contract guy in his 9th season?
Yes. That's the easiest question of the day. Sorry. Yes.
Right? The problem is it's not like Jamal is on his first contract. This is not his first big contract. This is his second big contract. And second big contract is not usually when you take a jump. Like taking a jump at 28, 29 is not normally when that happens. So I still feel like Jamal is who you get. Jamal is inconsistent during the regular season. I feel like it's that you have to treat this year's Jamal almost like the Jamal coming back from the ACL injury, because he was just he had to. If you have to heal shin splints over a long period of time, the only thing you can do is nothing. So I assume Jamal spent a lot of nothing over the summer in order to heal his legs. So I still am treating the beginning of this season like I did when he came back from the ACL injury, and he was a little shaky and it didn't look quite right. And then he finished off really strong because he got his legs under him. And that's all I need for him to do. He is not going to be an all-star. He may never be an all-star. That is not necessarily his role. His role is to be the second best player on the Nuggets to win a championship. His job is to be able to pass and shoot and defend in the playoffs at a very high level.
This is probably
I feel bad. I feel bad for Jamal that, that's the role. And I feel bad for Jokic that he has to carry. But that's the way they built the team. You got to carry, man. Like, that's your job. I'm sorry that the best player in the world has to carry. But I don't expect Jamal to be much better. But I do expect Jamal to get back to being championship level Jamal.
Something that's missing for me right now, and maybe we'll see it because there's still a lot of season left, but where's the 50-point Celtics game from Murray? Like, we just he used to have games even in the regular season, right, where he went nuclear, where we were like, oh yeah, this guy, like, on the right night, he can be like the best player on the floor. I feel like the last season and a half, we just don't really get that ever. Right. Not obviously we're not going to get it all the time. We're not. There's various reasons for that, but yeah, I think he needs to get back to where, like, if this is the plan for the regular season, is to sort of coast and then turn it on in the playoffs, I think he at least needs to, like, go into like beast mode, into bubble mode a few times in the regular season to like prep for that. I think that should be part of the prep almost, because you can't just flip switches with things like this. I don't think anybody's capable to go from coasting to dominance without some kind of a lead into that. And at this point now we're several years back from seeing that version of Murray. I think he needs one of those. I think he needs one of those, like, just 50-point bursts.
This is probably a whole different show for a whole different day. If you don't get that from Murray, if this is the level you keep getting from Mike, as this Jokic era continues, do you keep throwing max contract money at guys that are basically being elevated by him? How do you work that game if you don't have all-stars sitting next to him? So be interesting for the front office over the long haul.
Well, and that's what they have to figure out is if the ceiling has been reached and you're never going to hit that ceiling again, then yeah, you have work to do. But you can't move Jamal very easily, and you can't move AG because he's the foundation of your whole defense. So, like,
it's MPJ is the guy without a chair.
There's only one guy. Yeah.
Is there? We are seeing some rumors floating around today too about him being shopped around. Is there any truth to that? Do you guys know? Have you heard anything?
The only thing that came out was from Mark Stein saying that the Nuggets are eager to make a move before the trade deadline, but nothing more than that. And you know what? MPJ is the only guy you can actually move before the trade deadline this season, unless you're talking about, like
the
your
bench,
Zeke, Najis, and other bench guys. But yeah, there was another report that they're trying to shop Zeke, Najee, and some draft compensation for some upgrade somewhere. We'll see. Zeke Najee's contract is not going to be easy to move. Like, we are seeing solid guys being waived, like basketball Paul today from Detroit Pistons, like a really solid backup big being just waived and not traded for anything, substantial. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting and honestly grim summer if the Nuggets don't have a good playoff showing this season. I actually expect them to make bigger moves in the summer and not before the trade deadlines. But I might be wrong. Maybe there is a Michael Porter trade in the cards this spring, and who knows? Might be for the best, might be for the worst.
It's still my point of view that trading at the deadline doesn't give people enough time to adjust to Jokic. I think that has shown out any number of times when any of the deadline trades have come in and they don't just immediately splash. The guy who did was Aaron Gordon because his job was to hang out in the dunker spot and look awesome. And so they were asking him to do less, not to play in a different style in an offense. They were like, you can do all of these things, but we need you to do about half of them twice as well. So for AG, it's different. But if you're asking a guy to be a scorer off of Jokic and to do more things, because that's Mike's job. Mike's job for this offense is to rebound and score. That is his job. He is very good at it. He's an incredible shooter, and he's getting to be more of a paint scorer. You got to replace 19, 20 points a game from Mike. And you guys shoot the fewest threes in the league, and you're going to trade the guy who's your only three-point shooter.
He's come around as a defender. Yeah, I mean,
right. He's not terrible. He can hold his own.
Yeah. What do you replace him with that will fit into this system anytime soon? Yeah.
Yeah. For people fantasizing about Jimmy Butler or something like that. I mean, what are you sacrificing there? It's a 35-year-old guy who's in decline, who's scoring about what MPJ is scoring right now. I think he's at 19 points a game, or maybe 17 a game. Yeah, I don't see that really improving the team.
I've seen some smart people saying that the Jimmy Butler trade would be smart, and I think the reason why they say this is, and I kind of agree with it, is that first of all, it's not a long-term deal.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy has a player option for next season, which means that he is a year and a half rental at best. I don't want the Nuggets to offer him a 4-year, $800 million contract in the summer. But I would like to have a shot of actual all-star level player next to Nikola and just hope for them to figure it out, because Nikola can figure out playing next to almost anybody in this league, except for Trey Lyles. But other than that, Jimmy Butler, could you imagine, I'm just going to give you a glimpse of my vision here. Could you imagine a lineup of Russell Westbrook, Christian Brown, Jimmy Butler, Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic?
Yeah.
There's zero spacing. Nikola Jokic is your best shooter in that lineup, and Aaron Gordon is your second best shooter in that lineup. But man, people would hate to play against that team.
Bulldog
they would
team,
not feel nice after a brawl with those kind of guys.
No, you're right. I don't hate it. If it happened, I think I would feel neutral about it. I just don't think it's the slam dunk. We're winning a championship now if we make this move. And if that's the case, then is it worth what you do to team chemistry potentially, or what you do to break up the core that won the championship? I mean, if maybe I don't know. I'm torn on this one. I was debating it with some friends earlier in the chat actually. Where I see both sides, but it's not. I just think if anybody thinks this is a no-brainer, you do that move if you can do it. I'm not sure it's that black and white.
Well, and I understand that people want the leadership. They want the vocal guy in the locker room, which the Nuggets don't have, because it's not Jokic for sure, and it's not Murray either. Those guys are very introverted kind of people, who are not loud, boisterous, verbal kind of folk. I understand that. I understand that people are trying to to manufacture adding that kind of guy. But this Butler is not the Butler that we even saw in the championship and demolished. Like, this Butler is older than that Butler. Like, this is not 31-year-old Jimmy Butler that the Nuggets would be getting. So what do you think you're going to get out of this?
And what did that Butler do to a couple of quiet guys in Minnesota way back when,
Right.
too?
Yeah.
Yep.
it can be tempting to be like, oh, the Nuggets need that fiery guy. Well, okay, maybe or maybe not. Maybe they're built a little different around a Jokic personality that doesn't really gel with that necessarily. And they have Russ. I mean,
I was going to say they've kind of got him in kind of the right spot. Russ is in a spot now with the team that he doesn't. He carries the right amount of weight from the right position.
But you also know that Russ respects the hell out of Jokic. He knows what this triple double machine is doing right now more than anyone.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I think
so I don't for all these trades, like if you're gonna move Mike, it has to be the right guy, and it has to be because what you have isn't working. Like, for me, the only way that works is if you can get another ball handler, because you're worried that Jamal Murray is not going to ever earn that $50 million a year, and then you need another guy who can run pick and roll with Jokic, who can get his own shot, which Mike can't do. Mike is not a get my own shot guy. So you need a guy who can create his own shot, who can create for others, who can run a bench, who can do all of the things that you need done with Nikola Jokic off the floor and on the floor. So unless you're getting that guy, there's like 3 guys that are worth it.
And then, like, I don't know if this would even be possible, but like if the Sixers decide to go in a rebuild and Paul George becomes available, can you make the money? But see, then you lock yourself into that. He has like a 4-year deal, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he's like 30. Yeah, I want no part of a 4-year deal with Paul George.
Yeah,
that sounds horrible.
They already tried to trade for Paul George this last summer. At least some reports say they were probably shopping Michael Porter Jr. to try to acquire Paul George, which I agree. As a short-term measure, I would totally agree with that kind of deal. But let me try to put a bow on this segment on an optimistic note. I think we all agree that the Nuggets don't need an upgrade on a small forward position of Michael Porter. They need a big upgrade on a point guard position, and luckily they already have a guy on their roster that could provide that upgrade. He just needs to start playing better, and I'm talking, of course, about Jamal Murray. Now, Gordon, you mentioned that we should treat this season as Jamal's ACL recovery season, like he couldn't do much, and now he needs to ramp up for this season.
Yeah.
You remember what Nikola Jokić said that season? He said Jamal is going to suck for 25 games.
Right.
You know what? We're 2 games away. We are 2 games away from Jamal being great again. So
I honestly, I really do feel that way about Jamal, that if you just ride it out with him, if you can just get him healthy, and that is an if, because he needs to not play as many minutes, and he needs to play obviously better in the minutes he is playing. Like, can he play better in 28 minutes a night than in 38 minutes that he's currently being forced to play? Like, if you can limit his minutes by playing more Russ and more Strother and more other guys, can Jamal go harder in the minutes you've got because he's able to withstand that? He's not as tired. He's not as beat up. Like, that's possible. So I really am looking forward to Jamal getting it together as we get through the rest of this season. This is about the time where you would hope that he'd be able to ramp it up. And we're about to come into a stretch of 5 games in 7 days or something. Like, we have this next week where there's basically just a handful of games, just a couple. And then right around Christmas, they're going to be playing pretty much every other day or every day for a while. So they better have a plan in there, and running Jamal 40 minutes a game in those matchups is tough. I just think
another perfect segue into the next segment where I want to talk about the upcoming games. But before we can do that, let's take one more short break. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we are back. So, Gordon, you mentioned the games that are coming for the Nuggets. Now they have 3 games in a row on the road. And it will be against Sacramento, Portland, and New Orleans. Now, before they go to that road trip, one important thing happened last night. The Nuggets won their 2nd consecutive game. And that is something that hasn't happened since November 11th, when that five game homestand ended. So it was a really rocky month behind the Nuggets. But now they're playing three of the worst Western Conference teams all on the road, to be honest. So what should we expect from the Nuggets in these 3 games right before the home and home games against Phoenix Suns right after that?
Go for it, Mike. You're muted.
Playing against poor teams has not necessarily been the insurance for us to win a lot of games this season, so I'll start there. But that said, I think there's a lot of space for us to hopefully do a little bit of feasting on these next few games. If we play the games the right way and the way we can, it does seem like we are mostly reconstituted at this point. And it would be nice to pick up some ground on the road because, as Coach was saying after the game last night, we have not protected home court very well. We've got to make up some space on the road to get this to happen. So hopefully the team takes that to heart. I'd like to see at least 2 of these 3 in our bag by the time we get home.
I think they need to win all 3, and I think they need to win them pretty convincingly for me to feel like, okay, we're like, they have turned a corner here. Yeah. And if not, if they have a couple duds in there, I think I don't know. It's going to be a more chitty bang bang, I think you were saying, Mike. Although I will point out, I'll shout out to chat. Somebody mentioned that this point in their championship season, they were 1 game better than they are right now. So it feels a lot worse than it is.
For Murray to like grind it back out. And now that he's getting back on, like that's what you want. For me, I agree. I think they should be winning all 3 of these games. Like, if you focus, you have space. There's no back-to-backs. There's no, you don't have any of that. You have plenty of travel time. You have plenty of rest time. You're going to hang out in a new city for a couple of days, and none of those cities are LA. One of them is New Orleans, so let's not go crazy. But, the Portland nightlife is not the Miami nightlife. So I am hoping that the guys are going to show up.
Maybe they're really into organic farming.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Jellies.
They got to go to the Tillamook cheese factory out there. And then,
I think Zion's into beignets, but holy cow.
Yeah, that is true enough. But no, the Nuggets have the players to beat all those teams. They have the matchups are favorable for them. Now the Nuggets have traditionally struggled to impose their will on the Sacramento Kings because Malone wants it too much. But I'm hoping they can come through for Malone here and actually show up to beat his old team for him. But honestly, these are games that they should win. Even though they're all 3 on the road, this is not a tough road trip and is not a compact road trip. You have time to prep for every one of these games. Show up, do your job, take all 3, go home. That's all I'm looking for. If it's 2 out of 3 would be disappointing. 3 out of 3 would be good. 1 out of 3 is unacceptable in any fashion. You are not allowed to do that. Not right now. If you want to build momentum, this is where you do it.
Notice Gordon did not dare say that 0 out of 3 was even a possibility. So.
No, we're not talking about that.
0 out of 3, you make a trade immediately.
0 out of 3, and someone's getting moved or
blown up.
Fired. Yeah.
So 0 out of 3, DEFCON 1, 1 of 3, DEFCON 2, DEFCON 3, DEFCON 4. Yeah, I guess you can make it linear like that. Yeah, so the Phoenix Suns are coming up after that, 2 games against them, and I think Kevin Durant is returning to the lineup. They have been horrible without him. They're like 1-9. because I'm guessing Devin Booker is having a similar season to Jamal Murray so far. So this is why they're so bad without Kevin Durant. But by the way, when they had Kevin Durant, they have been like, I don't know, 11-2 or something like that. They have been really, really good without him. I'm talking numbers out of my head, so I'm sorry if I'm making big material errors here. One last question for you guys before we go. So the big theme of this season for me, it's not really a theme, but Joker is having the best start to the season in league history, but that also coincides with him playing by far the most minutes per game in his career so far. Now, the Nuggets have already had 2 All-Star breaks so far, with the first one being even extended for him when his son Ignat was born. And the last night he got the last fourth quarter off. Are we fine with his cumulative load so far? Should we worry about it at this point of the season, or is this just a no story to you?
I wouldn't. I'm a little worried about. I mean, I like. I don't know if worry is the right word, but I would like to see him play less minutes going into the playoffs if possible. Yeah.
I think it's just the minutes.
Like it's December.
The type of
they've had enough space between the games early. Like he had the time off for his son. They're getting these 4 games in like a week and a half. After 4 days off. Like they've had 2 of these breaks where they've had 2 4 days off already in the season. Like yes, he's having to work hard, but he's not doing it in a lot of back-to-back situations. So I don't want him to be playing this many minutes, like you said, down the stretch. I don't want this in March and April. I don't want this, in all of the heavy, 5 games and 7 nights. I don't want him having to do all this. But the way it's worked out, it's okay so far. It just needs to taper off. Stop having to use him this much.
I don't even think it's just the minutes. I think it's you came out of the Washington game. It felt like Atlas, man. He was carrying the whole world on his shoulders. Mm-hmm. That's the part that's got to stop even more than the minutes load is, the responsibility has to be spread out and he is capable, as his crazy season is showing, of shouldering that much weight, but we're not going to go all the way if this is the plan all the way through the season. So.
Yeah, totally agree. I think I see his high minutes. Well, when I see his minutes up, to me that's a sign that the rest of the team isn't playing well. I mean, I think that the reason you have to play him more, right, is because the bench keeps fumbling leads every game. So if we can clean some of that up,
mark, yeah,
exactly. So if you clean some of that up, it'll take care of itself, I think.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think this has been a very informative hour of Nuggets talk. Mike, I really enjoyed your Jokmas piece on ddnvr.com. It was a really nice sonnet. I think that's the right word for it. Do you have something already cooking for the next weekend, or do you wait for the last possible moment for inspiration?
I tend to wait till the last possible moment, and I would like to say it's for inspiration, but it's mostly just sheer damned laziness more than anything. It's funny. I used to get to write a lot more of that. I used to take the opportunity to write a lot more of that type of stuff when I was still writing back at Stiffs, and it was a fun sort of callback this week. So it was a good time. Yeah.
Okay, gents, let's just grab a beer together when I come to Denver next year. Not a light beer, just a proper beer for me, if I may say so. And
yeah, don't tell the chat what the DNVR guys gave you when you came out here.
No.
They'll never. They'll boycott.
It's gonna stay.
We'll get you a better beer next time.
Yeah, you're getting better beer. Getting proper Denver beer.
So this is all we've prepared for you this week, my dear listener. And please, with the cherry on top, take the word prepared very loosely. Be well, be safe, be kind to everybody. Call your mom. And until next week, Jeff Green.